A warm hello to all our participants to this leadership workshop on harnessing the Asian spirit, digital and holistic leadership for a sustainable world. We have around 500 participants who have registered, with the vast majority from the Asian region. Thank you very much for your interest. My name is Geraldine, and I am the SEACEN Center Senior Analyst in charge of developing and delivering content in the areas of leadership and governance. This workshop is a collaboration among OJK, which is the Indonesian Financial Services Authority, the Asian Development Bank Institute, or better known as ADBI, and the SEACEN Center. At the outset, I would like to record my appreciation to Pak Sukarela of OJK and Ibu Nella of the ADBI and your respective teams for the strides that we have made together in organizing this event. It is my delight to moderate this workshop, which will feature speakers who are highly attuned to the leadership challenges facing a spectrum of organizations, including official sector policymakers, staff of central banks and supervisory agencies, and also financial industry practitioners. Our speakers will shed light on the impact of digital disruption on the economy and financial sector, as well as on the potential of digitalization. Therein, they will share their insights on the approaches for a more holistic leadership model and also inculcate the importance of sustainable development and ecosystem thinking. We hope for our discussions today to bring to the fore viable policy options and perhaps for a collective way forward to be carved out. Before we proceed, here are some pointers. Please ensure your microphones are muted to avoid any disruptions. Please keep your audio on so you can hear the presenters. Do type any questions you have into the question feature of this platform. You can also tell us who among the presenters you would like to answer your question. Following the presentations by the key speakers and discussants, we will open the floor to a question and answer session. The presentation materials will be made available to all participants following the workshop. Well, without any further ado, it gives me great pleasure on behalf of the organizers to welcome Professor Tetsushi Sonobe, the Dean and CEO of the Asian Development Bank Institute, to deliver his opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Geraldine. Good morning, Nice to meet you. Welcome to this workshop. I have 3 messages this morning to deliver to you. The message number 1 is that I'd like to congratulate all the participants on their participating in this workshop out of their busy schedules. They made a very good decision to do so. I'm even proud of them. Let me explain why I'm so eager to congratulate the participants. One of the important roles of leaders is to point his or her finger in the direction of the destination to move toward. Playing this role is always difficult, but it's more difficult in the era of digital transformation because the advancement of digital technology is disruptive and creating a lot of uncertainties. And this difficulty is exacerbated by COVID-19. What is needed to reduce the degree of uncertainty? We definitely need to update and upgrade the knowledge about the nature of digital technology and those changes which the further progress and the spread of this digital technology are likely to bring about. Clearly, the participants have made a wide decision. Now, another important role of leader is to nicely combine and coordinate people with different expertise and different skills. In the era of digital transformation, new skills and new expertise are emerging. Again, we need to update and upgrade our knowledge about them to play the role of good coordinator. Moreover, in difficult times like this, leadership assumes greater importance. So leaders have to hone their leadership skill further. So this workshop is very timely and relevant to leaders. My second message is, thank you the 3 keynote speakers and 2 discussants who are ADB colleagues and the moderator. Whether this workshop is as successful as the participants have expected or not depends critically on the quality of their delivery, of their knowledge and thoughts. And I believe that they will do wonderful job this morning because they are real experts. My third message is, thank you the Southeast Central Banks Center and the Indonesian Financial Services Authority for planning and organizing this important workshop and mobilizing such excellent experts to the workshop. ADB Institute wishes to strengthen its collaborative relationship with these 2 organizations in future. With that, I congratulate the participants and thank the speakers and the co-organizers once again to conclude my opening remark. Thank you for your attention. Over to Geraldine.
Thank you, Professor Tetsushi. Thank you for sharing your perspectives and taking the time off your busy schedule to be with us virtually. And now, participants, please join me in welcoming Ms. Nurhaida to say a few words. Ibu Nurhaida is the Vice Chairman of the Board of Commissioners of OJK and the Chairman of the Ethics Committee. Ibu, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Geraldine. Thank you so much. Dean Sonobe, thank you very much for your very encouraging speech. Speakers and moderators, I see Pak Malik Khan, also Pak Sani, and with other speakers, Deputy Commissioner of OJK, Pak Batunanggar, Pak Widyo, and all participants. Good morning to everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Firstly, I would like to convey my warmest welcome to all distinguished speakers and also participants joining the virtual meeting today. As we all know that the fourth industrial revolution has brought a very unique change in our societies and also in organizational around the world. All industrial sectors are changing very rapidly and dynamically. This condition in general or widely known as VUCA, which is the shortage of volatility, uncertainty, complex, and ambiguity. So this is a condition in the business today that we are facing. Also, of course, in the financial market. This condition is also intensified by the new condition that we are facing, which is a pandemic of COVID-19. It means that everybody, every company, and every single person in our nations or in the globally, we have to adjust with the new conditions in the business sectors. In general, people should see the condition of VUCA when they are making their decisions, when we manage risk, and we also driving change and also solving problems. So that actually VUCA, if we address this in a good condition, we can have opportunity actually to boost the economy of a companies or a nation. Through VUCA, a company will have actually the capability of capacity to tackle problems, overcome variable difficulties, and find solution. And what is the role of leaders, and what is the thing that we need from leaders? In the condition of VUCA, leaders are required to have a flexible and adaptive long-term vision, with, of course, with a short and dynamic response for every conditions. So now the added value and the outcome is more important than, or if we compare to the old bureaucracy and work ethics that we used to be in. The long-term vision is remain to be the leader guide. However, if we want to achieve that, it is required the adaptive and also agile action in the field. So for organization that is inflexible with a management pattern that is using old manners, ethics of subordinates and superiors, it will make difficult for business organization to maneuver and to achieve growth opportunities. Leaders of business, bureaucratic organization will find it difficult to move and to sweep because of this ancient mindset. So what is really needed is the way to change the mindset of people to adapt with the new conditions. So therefore, leaders need to pay attention to the use of technology that we know now that technology is very developed right now. And we should be able to use or to utilize this technology to help us to complete our work. So we are not comparing it with the old way of working without utilizing technology. Also, leaders need to start to create a revolution to come up with the new technologies that will meet our needs for self-actualizations. So one response to this is to make or to increase human awareness, to develop our leadership so that we can navigate complexity, also tolerate uncertainty, and also ambiguity. and to tap inner source of creativity and wisdom. We have to be able to connect and to will focus on higher goals and ultimately create the condition for ourselves and others to thrive. In general, leaders must have a good ethics, be transparent, trustworthy, capable, awareness, and also ability to serve and inspire people. So today, I think the webinars that we have today is to introduce, or the objective is to introduce and to spread the new age of economy and organizational paradigms for creating society 5.0 in an era of exponential technologies through holistic leadership, personal reflection, and also ethical businesses. So if I may put this into 3 points, the overall aims of this webinar is, first, to provide understanding about digital disruption and its impacts on economy and also financial sectors. The second one is to develop capacity on a new holistic leadership model that is integrate open heart, clear mind, and also brave action to successfully embrace the industrial revolution of 4.0 and beyond with agility to maintain resiliency and sustainability. And the third one, if I may say, is to update and upgrade knowledge and skills of the member countries' relevant senior government officials on digitalization and its potential. Moreover, it is also, we hope that this webinar, we will discuss how to inculcate and internalize the importance of sustainable development and also ecosystem thinking to align with what we call SDG goals that is already known all over the world. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, this is the 3 things that we should achieve in today's webinar. So for that, I would like to thank for some of parties that are very helpful in these webinars. Thank you for sharing your experience and also your expertise today to our distinguished speakers, Mr. Malik Khan and also Mr. Hanafi Gusiano. And of course, I would like to thank very much to ADB Institute and SEACEN, particularly also Miss Geraldine and Miss Nella. Thank you for a wonderful collaboration and organizing this webinar. And I would like to thank you, my internal people, OJK Institute, for organizing and facilitating the webinar. And of course, and most importantly, I would also like to convey my appreciation to all participants that have took their very valuable time and from their business schedule to take this opportunity to participate in this morning webinar. Thank you so much. We hope that we have benefits through all these activities. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Nurhaida. I like the emphasis you made on cultivating good ethics. Thank you. Before we begin with the first presentation, may I invite all presenters, including Professor Tatsushi and Ibu Nurhaida, and discussants, to switch on your videos. A quick screenshot will be taken now. 1, 2, 3, say cheese. Okay, I think we are done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geraldine.
You're welcome, Ibu. Thank you, everyone. We will start with the presentations by our panelists. We have 3 panelists. Each has 30 minutes to present. Panelists, may I urge you to keep to time. I will cue you if necessary. Our first presenter is Pak Sukarela Batunanggar, Deputy Commissioner of OJK Institute and Digital Finance. His presentation is entitled Cultivating the Asian Spirit, Holistic Leadership for a Digital Age and a Sustainable World. This is a topic that is very dear to Pak Sukarela's heart. He's always eager to share his insights on the holistic development of the human being and how one can learn to sharpen one's leadership abilities. Pak, please do flesh out the details for us.
Hello, Geraldine. Is it my time now?
Yes, it is. The floor
Okay, thank you. So, good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Dean Sonobe Sang from ADB Institute, the Dean of ADB Institute, and thanks also Ms. Geraldine, Session Center, and of course, our partners and strong supporters, Mr. Malik Khan and also Mr. Hanafi, for this very happy and also important occasion. So my title of the my presentation is Cultivating the Asian Spirit. So why I call it spirit? Because I think now in this time of difficult, I think we need to enliven our spirit. So please, Mas Dika, share my presentation. So next slide, please. Yeah, so the outline of my presentation first, I'd like to share the what is the root cause of the crisis so far, and secondly, sorry, Mas Dika, could you just put it in a larger screen? Sorry, just let me just. Yeah, and the third one, how we can, as a leader, to become a holistic leader. Next slide, please. So, first of all, I think the sustainability of the planet, civilization, and also the financial system, next slide, please, is at big risk. Why? Because it indicates the various crises, from ecological crisis, social crisis, and also financial crisis. My next slide, please. Yes, thank you. And also from wars to poverty. However, I think this is only a symptoms. All of them are symptoms. So the question is, so what is the root cause of all of these crises that we are already faced? So I just observed there are 3 interrelated causes. First of all, there is a moral crisis at the bottom. And of course, it is also, if we dig deeper, it is related on how we think as a leader. There's a problem on our paradigm and how we see things. And at the key root cause, I saw that there is a kind of a spiritual divide. There is a divide of we as a human with our creator and also the nature, the planet. as we can quote from Bhagavad Gita in the next quotation. Yeah. And also, I have a problem with my screen. I can see my screen. Sorry, Mas Dika, could you just, how I can put it into larger screen? It's only very, very small, so I can see my PowerPoint slides. All right, okay, I got it now. Sorry. Sorry. All right, I got it now, sorry. So as we quote from Gautama Buddha, we are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. And also from very beautiful word from Bhagavad Gita, one of the oldest texts in the Hindu tradition, man is made by his beliefs. As he believes, so he is. So if we have sort of the right mindset, we will have sort of the right action. As in a Tai Chi philosophy, there is a very, very good wisdom that says, spirit leads the mind leads the action. So in order to have a very good action, to be accountable as a leader, to be compassionate, so we need to connect to our true spirit, and I will speak later. So I think these three crises, moral crisis, mental block, and spiritual blind, that we are separate from our true self and our true nature and true spirit, create many, many crises and problems we are facing in our civilization and our economy and financial system today. Next. So the technology disruption and also pandemic COVID-19 have also big impacts not only to the society, but also to our economy and also our financial system. As we as the financial who are responsible in this financial institution or in the financial industry, of course, there at least we are already faced by three impacts of this pandemic and also technology disruption. First of all, the disruptive business model, the change of customer behavior and relationship, and also in terms of how organization develop, how they manage and acquire talent. And of course, on a leadership, we need sort of new model and new system on how we lead the way follow through. And of course, we as a regulator also need to change as innovation now become a new mandate, and also risk with our financial industry is also not only increased, but we are also aware and also prepared to anticipate what is unknown risk and unknown crisis in the future. So at least how we can maintain sustainability, at least I identify two strategies. Next. First is how to enhance our resiliency, our strengths internally as a human, as a leader, and also as institution, and also as a nation. And second, of course, resiliency is not enough. We need to have also developed our agility, how we can move faster and also decide, make action, correct action with a faster sort of decision. Next. So the sustainability, as we mentioned, can be only achieved through maintaining harmony of we as a human with the nature and also our creator, as is beautifully also written in in our Hindu Bali tradition, Tri Hitakarana, how we can maintain a good relation, harmony with God and harmony with people, and also harmony with the nature or the planet. I think that's a very, very a deep meaning in this Tri Hitakarana, and also in Islam tradition, that we as a human, the creator or God create as a human to give mercy to all creation, to be rahmatan lil alamin, So we have to, as a Khalifa, as a leader, should give mercy to all creation. And in the next caption, and also again from Bhagavad Gita, I quote, "We are born into this world of nature. Our second birth is into the world of spirit." So our existence in this world, not yet. It is only our firstborn. So our eternal born is born again to reborn into the spirit. So this is kind of, that we should understand better, to improving or developing our self-mastery as a leader. So without this sort of harmony, how we can better not only connect, but understanding ourselves, understanding the nature, and also understanding the creator. What is the creator wants for us as a leader in this world? So I think that's a very, very, very important. Next. So essentially, we as a human is a holistic being. I think we have, of course, our body, to act, to move, and also we have our mind to think. I think this is a very, very obvious, from children until we are become mature, and also to order. From time to time, we are learning. We are learning every day, gaining knowledge every day, and use our mind, for our daily activities and our role as a leader. But this is not a complete human being. Of course, we as a human being, we have also a soul or a feeling. The feeling, the soul or heart, the function of the heart is to feel, to feel happy, to feel sad, to feel empathy for everybody. If you talk about, for instance, inclusion, we cannot reach inclusion without empathizing our society. You cannot be a good business, not good in a business, if you cannot empathize your customer, you close and you also closely engage with our customer. But finally, we as a human, actually, our true nature is a spirit. So how to be not only acting or doing and thinking, as we as leader more use our body and also our mind, but not yet much using our sense or our feeling, and also our spirit, because the spirit is actually the true nature, which is to make us a complete human being, and also to make us happy as a human being and also as a leader. As a Sufi saying said that he who knows himself knows his Lord. So the personal mastery is very, very important for us, not only as a leader, but as a human being. We have to know ourselves. So how we can do that? As Lao Tzu from Tao Te Ching, one of also the oldest book in the Taoism tradition, and one of the most translated book in the world, said that when I let go of what I am, it means that what I'm thinking, my identity, my package, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. So we as leaders should be sort of learn and open our heart, open our mind, to understand more, to explore the unknown. So what we might be as a leader. Next. So from the holistic perspective, we as a leader must integrate not only physical intelligence and intellectual intelligence, PI, but also emotional intelligence. I think the last maybe 15 or 10 years or even 20 years, it already emerged not only theory, practice of emotional intelligence from Harvard professor Daniel Goleman and so on, but it is also, it's not enough, emotional. We need also to develop our spiritual intelligence, spiritual quotient, SQ, and I think there are a lot of research now is going on and also practice in some of leadership development programs. So how we can integrate and balance all of these pies quotient for sustainability in order to sort of improve, not only improve, optimize the performance, maintaining growth, and also maintaining the balance in our organization, in our society, and also in ourselves as a leader. Next. So agility is become very, very important, not only in terms of operational level, agility in terms of how we can develop strategy, how we develop infrastructure, but also ourselves as a leader. So at least as a leader, we have to develop 4 agility, starting from self-awareness as a locus, as a source of agility is a self-awareness, a self-understanding of ourselves, our true nature, in order to create a people agility, sort of more empathize, more socialize, also change agility, how we can move quicker, make a good decision and make a good plan, looking forward to challenge and to how to innovate, and also mental agility. So how we can, as a leader, comfortable with complexity and ambiguity, find solution to tough problems, become a critical thinkers, and so on. And also, of course, result agility. Result agility we should deliver good decision, and also not only good for shareholders, of course, to be balanced with the stakeholders, ecosystem to ecosystem. Next. So the question is, what is the holistic leader? So I identify at least 9 characters of holistic leaders that differentiate holistic leaders with not, or other leaders which is not holistic leaders. Leaders that only using physical intelligence, maybe to some level intellectual intelligence, of course, and also to some level emotional intelligence. But of course, holistic leaders also use this spiritual intelligence or spiritual quotient. Of course, the first characters or nature is compassion. It's a very true nature of a human being, because all of these good traits or characters actually is a noble characters of a good man, not only a good man, maybe a wise man, right? A character of a prophet and also a holy man, right? So we have to have embodied this all of these characters. I make a short sort of a sentence, Caca Ceksi. So what is Caca Ceksi? Yeah, compassion, courage, agility, creativity, authenticity on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side we have empathy, humility, service, and integrity. So as I quote from one of the martial art leaders, it is from Aikido, yeah, Morihei Ueshiba. He says that loyalty and devotion lead to bravery. Yeah. Bravery leads to the spirit of self-sacrifice, service. The spirit of self-sacrifice creates trust in the power of love. So Aikido means I is love. Yeah? Ki is energy or spirit, Do is the way. Like also other spiritual martial art like Tai Chi or any other similar martial art. And in other words, I quote from one of very famous mystic and also philosopher and also great thinker, Jalaluddin Rumi, says that listen with ears of tolerance. So we should listen with our heart, see through the eyes of compassion. So we have to see not only through the physical eye, but also our mental eye and also our spiritual eye, and speak with the language of love. So it is similar, these two masters. So I love these two masters, and I call them also my personal masters. So the question is, how we can inherit or embody this, all of these beautiful or noble characters? That's the question. So I'll tell later on my last slide. So please be patient.
Pak Sukarela, sorry to interject. You have about 10 minutes left.
Okay, thank you, Beck Geraldine. So how we can embody or develop this holistic leadership? Of course, we have to balance the yin and the yang. Yeah, yin yang is one of the oldest Chinese cosmology. They call it the Tao. Yeah, the Tao create yin and yang. What is yin and yang? Night and day, sun and moon, male and female, hot and cold, and so on. So in terms of organization, we have also to a balance of business requirement with user experience, balance of the company growth and profit with the personal growth and happiness. We have also to balance reality and possibility. You know, we have to open to any possibility in the future, even though it is not clear enough, still ambiguous. And of course, balance of shareholders with the stakeholders is very important to understand and also to serve stakeholders better. And again, I quote from the Quran, the holy book of Islam, the Muslim, and the heaven he raised and imposed the balance. So the key is here is how to maintain mizan, the balance. So the balance of perspective. And again, one very beautiful and very deep meaning quotation from I Ching, one of the, I think it's called the oldest literature or the oldest book in the world, yeah, 1,000 years ago. They call it I Ching or I Ching, the book of change. So I Ching says, when your inner world comes into order, your outer world will come into order. So the quality of our inner, characteristic will influence the outer, the result of our works, our thinking, and our action. So we have very, very important how to, develop these inner qualities. Next. So, as an example, I just quote one of also a very famous and very deep meaning, a Chinese cosmology. It is interrelation of four elements. These four elements also we inherit in our nature as a human. There is a wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, which is not only interdependent, but also there is a dynamic engagement. Yeah, there is a dynamic interaction of like wood will generate fire. Yeah, the fire will generate earth. Earth will generate metal. Then metal generate water, and vice versa. Like fire will overacting the wood can burn the wood. So this kind of balance. So we as a leader, so also reflect ourselves as these five elements. From the wood side should be a transformative decision-making, idealism, imagination, ability to change, fire, characterized of dynamic, love, leadership, insight, warm-hearted. Earth is nature of acceptance. The nature is nurture. They grow everything. They accept everything. They never complain, right? Very, very stable and also honest. And also, we have to have also a metal characteristic. What is metal? It is very sharp, very strong, and determination. Inner strength, focus, independence, and also fluency of speech. And water characteristic. What is water? Water is very receptive, creative, very sensitive, calm, and also desire for life. So we have to have, develop this very beautiful and strong and dynamic characters in ourselves as leader. Next. So the question is how we can develop our capacity as a holistic leader. At least we have three practice. First of all, self-awareness practice like intention, centering, reflection. Usually we share this in our on-site training program. The first we have in Bali last November last year. It is very beautiful, and hopefully after this COVID-19 we can meet in a beautiful place like in Bali or in Jogja, anywhere, so we can share, together. We can learn from ourselves, from the nature, and from the mentor, and so on. And also martial arts is very good to develop our capacity as a holistic leader, like Aikido, Qigong, or Tai Chi Chuan, or Silat, and anything like a breath working or exercise. And of course, the most important, I think, is how we can maintain our true spiritual practices, like prayer in Muslim, or salat. Yeah, we have fasting, you do yoga, and so on. So I think we can combine these three practices to build our capacity as holistic leader. So it is very, very important how we can nurture and cultivate our personal mastery. Like Lao Tzu from the Tao Te Ching, said that mastering others is strength, but mastering yourself is true power. And
another 3
another
minutes.
master, yes, Geraldine. Yeah. The slide, please. Show my slide, please. Sorry, I miss again my slide. Sorry. Okay, Mas Nika, could you go to slide 13, please? Yeah, let me just from my slide. Slide 13. As in slide 14, there are two beautiful pictures I put there. Usually, we as a leader, do our role as a scientist or philosopher. Usually, we think and look outside everything outside ourselves. But in addition to be a scientist, we need also enhance our capacity as alchemists. Who is alchemist? Alchemist is the one who look inside himself. Like again, Rumi, I quote a beautiful word from Rumi. The universe is not outside of you. Look inside yourself. Everything that you want, you already there. So actually, we have everything inside ourselves. Just ask our heart. Look to our heart. And then in the next quotation, I quote from one of very beautiful word from Zen saying, from Japanese Buddhist tradition. What it says is, knowledge is learning something new every day, like we used to do, from our childhood until today, or even until we die, yeah, we earning knowledge every day. But wisdom is something different. Jen saying, wisdom is letting go of something every day. So letting go. What is letting go? Letting go the one that is not our true nature. You know, negative thinking, you know, prejudice, you know, self, you know, ego, something that we have to conquer and we have to let go to be a wise leader, to be more compassionate leader, and also accountable leader. So how we can do that? I think, as I mentioned, we have a lot of practice. Yeah, one of them we call it leadership presence. So what is leadership presence? Presence is how to be one with yourself, you know, and to just think about the present moment, the reality, because the true reality, only the present, because the past is already, you know, a history, and the future is uncertain. The future is not yet happened. So the past create depression, and think too much about the future create anxiety. So we need to be present, mindful, heartful. So again, I quote from Lao Tzu, next quotation, Mas Dika. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present moment. And in a Sufi Jalaluddin Rumi said that Sufi is the son of the present moment. So we have to, you know, cultivate this leadership presence. Next slide, in slide 16. I just not have much time to share all of this, what is the benefit, and also from this awareness, slide 16, Mas Dika. Yep. So there are a lot of benefit of self-awareness practice. At least it will enhance our resiliency as a human being and also as a leader, and also from the organizational perspective, it will reduce absenteeism, increase productivity, and also enhance the engagement of the employer and employee, and will improve the job satisfaction. So there are a lot of benefit that we can cultivate from this awareness practice. So a lot of company already now in slide 17 practicing what they call it mindfulness program, or I think the truer word will be heartfulness practice or program. You see a lot of big company, leading company like Google, even World Economic Forum every year invite, you know, leading mindfulness expert like John Kabat-Zinn and other master, you know, to share how we can leader to, you know, develop this mindfulness skills. In slide 18, I just summarize 3 urgent and radical transformation for sustainability. First of all, at the personal level, we should move not only doing and thinking, but should become holistic, or to be being, from thinking to being, and from our intention, moving not only acquiring the materials or worthy words, but now we have to seek for meanings and purpose, not only as a as personal leader, but also as organization, as also as society. And finally, of course, we need also move from ecosystem to ecosystem. So from personal level, from intentional goals level and system level, we have to combine this together to create sort of sustainable or responsible living. This is my final slide, hopefully. So, how to become whole? Again, I quote from Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu is a master, the guru, and he wrote that in a Tao Te Ching, one of the old spiritual books in the world. It says, if you want to become whole, let yourself to be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself to be crooked. If you want to become full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give up everything. So let go everything. It's a kind of mystery, a paradox, but there is a truth in this saying, and I think we have to, do some practice from time to time and dedication on how we can, decode this wisdom, and also a secret wisdom. I think that's all my share. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and I'm happy to ask some of a question and interaction and comments later in our discussion. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Pak Sukarela. Thank you very much. Participants, I would just like to inform you at this juncture that as we started the workshop slightly late, we might end the workshop half an hour later than what was indicated in the agenda. Well, many thanks for an illuminating presentation, Pak Sukarela. Before we move on, may I ask our participants to take a couple of quick seconds for reflection. If you have a notebook and pen, please write down your response to this question. What is the one thing I will do from today to cultivate greater self-awareness so I become a better leader? I repeat, what is the one thing I will do from today to cultivate greater self-awareness so I become a better leader? Just a quick reflection for you. Thank you, participants. We move on. Our next speaker is Mr. Malik Kotadia, FinTech evangelist, international speaker, and an acclaimed author with a global audience. Malik, who is a passionate digital community builder, will touch on digital and holistic leadership, a new model for this new era. Over to you, dear Malik.
Thank you so much, Geraldine. Hi, everyone. Good morning. And I am absolutely delighted to be back to speak at this summit. As Pa Sukarela said, we started this journey last November in Bali, where we said that this should not be a one-time effort, but it should be more like an ongoing movement, a movement of consciousness, corporate consciousness, as well as individual consciousness. And it's a topic which is very close to my heart. So I'm absolutely delighted to be back here and to share some perspectives with you. Can you put on my slides, please? And can you make it full screen, please? Thank you. So this is a little bit about myself. I won't go into too much detail, but basically I look at my life journey as 1.0 and 2.0. Since I'm in digital, that's how I would like to articulate it. So in my 1.0 avatar, I was essentially a digital banker for about 20 years. I worked in large multinational banks like Citi and Stanchart. I was running digital transformation for Citi. But in my 2.0 avatar, I wear multiple hats. I'm a fintech mentor. I'm an advisor. I run a fintech, global fintech impact community. I'm also a professor, but I'm also an author and a poet and a philosopher and a Sufi. So I will try and share my perspectives from both of these aspects or from a holistic aspect, since that's the theme of our discussion today. And hopefully this will give you some sense that I will do my best to share a balanced and holistic perspective. So this is what we will cover today. We'll look at Industry 4.0, and I won't go into too much detail because we have limited time, and Madam Nurhaida already kind of touched upon it, but I'll just try and encapsulate it and make sense. And from there, we'll segue into Society 5.0. And from there, basically, we will try and summarize it and close it. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes. So as I said, I won't go into Industry 4.0 in detail because I'm assuming most of you have either heard of it or are well versed with it. And of course, WEF has published many papers, etc., on this topic, and every leader nowadays is cognizant and talks about Industry 4.0. But I will try and summarize it for you and try and make sense of what it is all about, because this, when we talk about exponential technologies, sometimes there's an overwhelming amount of information, a lot of noise as well. So let me try and distill it for you and make sense. So this is what I call as the 6D framework. If you really have to distill what Industry 4.0 is about, I would say it gets captured in these 6 Ds. And this is inspired obviously by the framework of Singularity University and futurists like Peter Diamandis, etc. So essentially what are we seeing? We are seeing things getting more and more democratized. And we are moving, what do we mean by that? The power is moving back to the individuals, right? And you look at different technologies across industries, whether you look at 3D printing, whether you look at drones or a host of other technologies, the power is moving back to individuals. Secondly, we are seeing more and more an exponential and progressive digitalization and virtualization, if I may say so. So whether you look at mixed reality, virtual reality, augmented reality, even holography now, or the fact that we are talking about Internet of Things and we are projecting 50 billion connected devices. That's about 7 devices per individual on this planet. So we are moving towards progressive and exponential digitalization. Then we are also moving towards more and more disintermediation, right? And this is nothing new. We've seen it from the early days of the internet for 25 years now. But we are seeing things move to the next level now. If you talk about robotics, it has been around since the 1980s. But we are talking about it coming at an industrial scale. It's no longer in the realm of pilots. And it's all driven by so much data. So we are talking about more and more disintermediation, right? Data allows you to go direct to customers, and that's a model that the internet spawned. And now we are seeing it taken to the next level. If you are in the analytics space, you will probably resonate with this thing that data scientists talk about. They call it the segment of one. So you can really customize at a one-to-one level for your customers using data. And then the fourth is progressive demonetization. What does it mean? Things are progressively getting cheaper, and there is this traditional economic thinking about inflation. Things get more expensive as time passes, which is true at a macro sense. But if you look at the role of technology, what has it done? Things have become more and more cheaper. You look at how the PC started. What was it cost in 1984 as compared to now? You look at the platform economy. Earlier we used to own cars. Now we can just rent cars. We are moving towards more and more of a sharing economy. So things are becoming cheaper, or things are getting demonetized. Finally, we're looking at decentralization as well. And this is a topic I have spoken about a lot elsewhere, so I won't go into detail. But essentially, if you look at blockchain or distributed ledger technology, what is it all about? It is about decentralization, right? And the ultimate decentralization that blockchain in a way is trying to bring about is the decentralization of money, which has always been in the realms of the treasury or the central bank, or the bank, from the days of the Medicis and even before that. And finally, progressive dematerialization. As I said, things are getting more and more virtual. Things are becoming bits and bytes. What was once a photo album is now on your phone. And now, as I said, even money is becoming, in our world of finance, even money is becoming dematerialized, right? It's not just about, everything is bits and bytes. It's not just about internet banking with central bank digital currencies, if some of you are aware. Even the whole concept of money is going digital. Next slide, please. So I'll summarize this for you. There is a lot we can talk about. Unfortunately, I have very limited time, so I'll just try and encapsulate for you. Again, it seems a little overwhelming. So what does it all mean for us as leaders, as practitioners, as people in the industry? And Ibu Nurhaida spoke about VUCA. We are now living in an era where I say we are going to VUCA plus plus. VUCA talks about uncertainty, the unknowns. But how do you even plan for the unknown unknowns, right? There are the known unknowns and then there are the unknown unknowns. So we are moving to an era of VUCA plus plus. And if you really distill what I said about Industry 4.0 and the 6Ds, essentially things are becoming faster, things are becoming cheaper, things are getting closer to us. And let's take one simple example of closer, right? I gave the example of a PC. Think of the computer and how it came about. In the 1960s, it was this one giant thing in a room somewhere else, which you had no access to or which you were not even aware of. From there, we came to the era of the mainframes, and then the computers in your computer labs in the 1990s. I was an engineering student, and to access it there, it was in an air-conditioned room. You had to specifically go there. From there, the personal computer, the PC on your, work table. From there, the laptop, which you could carry anywhere. And now the mobile phone, which is in your pocket. So it's literally probably 1 millimeter away from you. And then we are talking about wearables and embedded chips, which means it can go inside your body. Things are getting closer. Then things are getting smaller, more virtual, and of course, ambient. And while all of these trends have been around, I have been speaking on this for many years now. What has this pandemic done? This pandemic has pushed this whole digitalization wave, if I may say, by 5 years at least. What we were thinking about and planning for 5 years ahead in 2025 has happened in 2020. And I've run most of my career in digital banking, trying to ramp up the digital numbers. What we saw this year was beyond remarkable. So it's basically become the default mode. Next slide, please. So now that we've looked at Industry 4.0, no, the previous slide, please. Can you just go to the previous slide? Okay, fine. So let's go from Industry 4.0, let's go to Society 5.0. And let's understand, we are talking about moving to a new model, which is basically moving from an economic system to an ecosystem model. And let's understand this. But before we go into it, let me spend a couple of minutes going into what the problem statement is, right? If you want to if you are proposing a transformation or a new system, let's understand what the root cause or what the problem statement is. And what is the problem statement of our current economic model? So let's look at where has 200 years of unbridled capitalism led us to. And I just want to add a caveat here. I'm not going to make a commentary on the virtues or vices, the pros and cons of capitalism and its various schools of whether it's the Austrian school or any other theories out there. I think there are many more capable economists and analysts in ADB and elsewhere who are better equipped to talk about this topic. I'm only going to present some key and important facts to you, and I hopefully will provoke you enough into thinking and reflecting. Next slide, please. Can you go to the next slide, please? Ms. Dika, can you go to the next slide, please? Hello? No, you've gone too far. Just go to the previous, the slide after the one that you were at. No, just go back to the slide you were at, please. Ms. Dika, can you hear me? Hello?
The previous slide, please, Dika.
No, you need to go back to the slide you were at, Dika. I don't know if you can hear me. Or should I share my screen from here? It might be easier. I can just share the deck from here through share screen, because this is also coming quite small. Yes, go to the next slide, please. Geraldine, if you are okay, should I share my slides from here? Because we are simply losing time this way.
Yes. Patsukarela, is that okay?
Yes, fine, yes. Yes, please, Pak Mali, yeah, no problem.
Because then I think that the control will also be easier. So let me share my slides from here. Let me try and go to the share screen button.
We apologize for the slight glitch, participants. Just bear with us.
So please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So as I said, we have to look at the problem statement of where has 200 years of capitalism led us to, and I say unbridled capitalism, with the caveat that I just shared. So let's look at the problem statements, and I have encapsulated 3 for you, which I'll try and go through quickly because we lost some time. One is, we have seen an era of endless consumption via over leverage, right? And there are enough economists who talk about an over leveraged economy. If you look at the global debt, etc. I won't go into numbers. As I said, the economists who will come after me are far better equipped and experts to talk about it. But I just want you to reflect on it. We've created this whole growth paradigm through more and more leverage in the system, and something we've especially seen more after this pandemic, right? With the whole liquidity coming into the system. Somebody's got to pay for it. And I thought I wanted you to reflect on this thing. You may agree or disagree, but it's something worth reflecting on. Capitalism is this childish idea that there is no such thing as too much, right? Even when we were kids, our parents used to tell us, don't overindulge. And Pa Sukarela spoke about the Buddha's words on balanced living. But what have we done? We are engaging in endless consumption, and that is through over leverage. And again, this is something I found humorous. There are some memes which are humorous, but which convey a deeper meaning. And I thought this is really capturing, the spirit of the overconsumption model that we have developed for decades now. 2, increasing inequity. And this is something that We've heard quite a bit from WEF, etc. But I wanted you to reflect on it. It's important. It's painful. Just look at it. I mean, some of these numbers are beyond shocking, right? The wealth of the world's billionaires increased by nearly $1 trillion. But more importantly, we have just about a handful of people who own the same amount of wealth and assets as probably the bottom half of the world. And this is an Oxfam report of 2019. It's beyond words. Let's just put it that way. It's incomprehensible. It makes no sense. And why do I say this with so much passion and even perhaps a tinge of anger? Because inequity, and we hear this being talked about a lot at global summits, etc. But inequity is not just about an economic question, right? It's not a question only about economics and for economists to decipher. It's basically a question of human dignity. And if that was not bad enough, what has this led to? I mean, we've heard enough and we've been reading enough about how this has taken a heavy toll on our ecosystem, the natural ecosystem, the forests, water supply, etc. I won't go into detail. Hanafi is a better expert than this. But again, I wanted you to reflect on some of these. These are hard-hitting messages. What is it that we've really tried to achieve, right? Through money. I mean, can you really eat money? And look at it. Many of these companies which say that they are, kind of creating value in society. Let's reflect, are they really creating value or are they simply creating more burden on the environment? And this again, I thought was something for us to reflect on, right? Elon Musk recently sent a rocket into space, and we've been talking about space research, trying to send people on another planet. Elon Musk talks about creating a colony on Mars. But the question is, why can't we simply make the world a better and more habitable place and take care of our natural ecosystem rather than trying to chase new worlds and spending billions of dollars on it? And this is a final message on this particular topic here. Perhaps it seems extreme, but I thought this captured it really well, right? Imagine a future where our world has been destroyed, but you have an old wise man talking to the children, talking about the stories of the past. And what does he say? Yes, the planet did get destroyed because of our greed and our myopia, but for a beautiful moment in time, we created so much value for our shareholders. Is this really logical? I ask all the business leaders here, is this really the growth model that we want to continue with? And if that is not enough, let me spend a couple of minutes, because we are living through probably what we call as one of the most unprecedented times in this century and in the last 100 years, and certainly in our lifetime. I won't go into too much of the impact of COVID. I think many people have covered it and some others will cover it. But I just want you to reflect on this question. Has this pandemic really exposed and exacerbated the inequality that is there in society? And I want you to really reflect on this. And this screenshot here, I thought really captures it. This was from CNBC, and like many of you, on that particular day, I was actually watching this show by Jim Cramer on CNBC. And when this screen flashed in front of me, look at the top. It says the Dow Jones had the best week since 1938. And at the bottom ticker, it says more than 60 million Americans lost their jobs in 3 weeks, right? In the same screen. And this really tells us the kind of unequal system that we have created and what the pandemic has kind of led us to. And they say a picture is more than 1,000 words. Here it's probably worth 1 trillion, if I may say. So on the one hand, we have seen people losing jobs and there is so much economic uncertainty. On the other hand, we saw the wealth of billionaires in the worst pandemic in our lifetime grow by nearly $1 trillion, something for us to really reflect on. And as I said, we've seen mass unemployment in country after country. Some of this is older data, but as we know, while things are, the unemployment situation has marginally improved, it is nowhere back to normal. So is it really, what have we achieved through the various monetary and fiscal policies in this period? Again, this is a question for the central bankers and the economists to reflect on. I don't claim to be the expert and I don't claim to offer them any advice. This is just for reflection. Have we really created an unintended large-scale wealth transfer from the public coffers to the private coffers. As I said, if you look at the largest corporations, they have actually seen and issued record dollar bond issuances in this period, right? More than $1 trillion, and that too at really, really low rates. We've seen billionaires adding $1 trillion, as I just shared, to their personal wealth. And we've seen the big five tech in the S&P contribute to 25%, which is the highest ever, right? 5 companies now contribute 25% or more to the S&P 500 index. So are we creating the largest monopolies in history? And on the other hand, what is happening? Millions of small businesses are dying. As I said, there is massive job loss and there is so much uncertainty. And as IMF and World Bank and even ADB has said, we've seen decades of poverty alleviation reverse. So that's the kind of inequity and inequality and more divide between the have and the have-nots that we have created, and which has gotten accentuated because of the pandemic. So what is the result? Obviously, the younger generation doesn't think like us. They are angry. They are really angry. And many of you might have seen this. The younger generation does not want our token assurances and words. And this again, I thought was, really hard hitting. Keep your coins. We don't want to give charity, and we don't want to, give handouts to the poor. There has to be a true and real change. So I hope I have been able to provoke you enough into really reflecting on what our current system has done for the divide and for our planet. And this goes beyond just talk of ESG or SDG goals and sustainability. We have to have a fundamental shift in our paradigm. And therefore, I say the current unsustainable model has to change. And I, again, talk to quite a few analysts and economists, and I see them on CNBC or Bloomberg or Yahoo Finance. So many of them, talk about, oh, we'll go back to normal in 2021 and things will become normal. My submission is we should not go back to normal, because normal was the problem to begin with. So what's the solution now that we spent some time looking at the problem statement? We have to go from the old economic model to a new ecosystem model. And Pasukarela articulated quite beautifully on this. It has to be governed by holistic leadership, and it has to be guided by the Asian spirit. Again, this is something I wrote a while back, and I thought this was cheeky. It's tongue-in-cheek, but it captures the essence. The obsolete capitalism model of use more is useless now. Instead, use less and recycle more. That is more useful. So something for us to internalize. So what do we say when we talk about a new system? Different people call it different things. Some people call it Society 5.0. In my book, I called it naturalism, and I say moving from the whole to the whole. The existing paradigm talks about transactional management. The new paradigm is based on transformational leadership. Pasukarela also spoke about it. Thankfully, more and more business leaders are talking about it, moving from shareholder value to stakeholder value. And who are the stakeholders? Everybody who's part of the value chain, right? It's not just about people who put in capital. Your employees, your suppliers, your local communities, your environment. Your environment is a big stakeholder. Think about all of those things. Inclusion, the people who are left out of the system. We have to think the old paradigm was just about economic value add, and that's how traditional economics thinks. We have to now think about holistic value add. And if you read any books on economics or finance or theories, they will talk about the corporation as an entity existing only to make profits. Whereas the new way of thinking says the corporation is a living, evolving organism. So what is my message for the leaders out here? We have nearly 300 people on the call. Pasukarela spoke about holistic leadership as well. Let's dive a little deeper into that. And I know there has been a lot of talk about holistic leadership, but there is also a fair bit of ambiguity. So let's go back to the first principles and really break it down into what holistic leadership is all about, right? So what is holistic? Physical, emotional, mental, intellectual, monetary, spiritual, interpersonal. All of these in the pursuit of one simple objective, happiness, right? At the end of the day, what is it that we all strive for? Happiness. And what is leadership? Now, I don't have too much time to go into detail, but I want to spend a minute here. This has been a quest ever since I was an MBA student of mine. And I spent more than a decade researching, reading various books, reading all the management thinkers, Peter Drucker, etc., Stephen Covey, everybody that you could think of, on what really leadership is all about, and or even reading these business leaders like Jack Welch, etc. And everybody was talking about, leadership is about leading people, it's about getting things done, it's about turning things around, etc., etc. But I was never really satisfied with those answers. They seemed to be fairly superficial. And then I happened to chance upon this book, which really transformed me in fundamental ways. It's called Synchronicity, The Inner Path of Leadership. And I read the first page, the foreword by Peter Senge, and I think that was my aha moment about leadership. So he talks about consider a domain of leadership that is grounded in a state of being, not doing. And the first and the most important choice a leader makes is the choice to serve, without which one's capacity to lead is profoundly limited. And it's not, just from some ancient text. This is one of the most respected management thinkers in today's day and age, an MIT professor who talks about servant leadership, right? So holistic leadership, if you really combine these two, is really about purposeful, inner-centered sense of being. And I thought I'll just quickly share some characteristics of holistic leadership, or we can also call it dharmic leadership, spiritual leadership, servant leadership, conscious leadership, Zen leadership. They are guided by the inner compass. It's about an inside-out worldview, not really looking at things only from an external perspective. They move from leading to serving. And I know this is difficult for many of us who have worked in corporate life for years or decades to really absorb. Leadership is all about, as I said, being the general, leading from the front, giving commands, marshalling the troops. But look at the greatest leaders in history: Gandhi, Mandela, Martin Luther King, or the masters of the past, Prophet Muhammad, Jesus, Buddha. Were they really, generals, or were they talking about servant leadership? They were always talking about serving rather than leading. And this is something I want you to reflect on. Every organization, every entity goes through crisis. What are the differences in crisis management? If you look at traditional leadership or traditional leaders, if there's a crisis, what do they say? Come on, buck up. Don't just sit there. Do something, right? What does Zen leadership say? Don't just do something. Sit there, meditate, reflect, align in silence, and let the answers emerge in clarity. So it's a complete paradigm shift. It's not a superficial transformation. It's a fundamental different way of going inside and then developing a new model of leadership, a new paradigm. And this is something, I also love Rumi, and I wanted to quote. Basically, it's really about listening to your deeper inner voice. That is the space from which true holistic leadership emerges. And we spoke about Asian spirit. So I just wanted to spend a minute on Asian spirit. What is the Asian spirit all about? Of course, now things have changed a lot. But if we go back to our roots in the Asian spirit, I say it's guided by the 4 H's: holistic living, harmony, helping others, and ultimately about happiness, right? So holistic living, as Pa Sukarela said, it's basically ecosystem mindset. And if you look at the Upanishads from India, it speaks about Vasudev Kutumbakam, which is the world is one big family, right? Modern day thinkers like Peter Senge call it systems thinking, thinking of the whole rather than the parts. Harmony, and again, harmony with nature, harmony with one's inner self. Helping others, we call it Seva Bhavna in Asia, right? Serving others, it's about service rather than simply making money and profits and personal benefits. And if you look at the Hard Rock Cafe, this is one of the mantras I have loved, which one of the corporates has kind of internalized, which says, love all, serve all. This has been the mantra of the founders right from their early days. You go to any Hard Rock Cafe, you will see this. And it's about happiness, right? The Asian spirit talks about simplicity and contentment, what we call in the New Age philosophy as an attitude of gratitude. And again, I just want to give you this message that much of this goes back to our roots, right? I spoke about the various masters and prophets and teachers. They have taught us the model of servant leadership, which we now in a way follow as either religion or philosophy. And I'm Sufi, so I follow it from a deeper perspective. It's really about care, dare, and share. Caring for the people, for the planet as well. And these are some quotes you can read from Prophet Muhammad, from the Buddha. Dare, be a better version of yourself. And it's not just about material growth. It's about, as I said, holistic growth, physical, emotional, intellectual, mental, spiritual. Be a better version of yourself. And if you look at Jesus or Krishna, they've all spoken about going inside and becoming a better person. And if you read modern day management thinkers like Peter Senge, they talk about a superordinate goal, something which is bigger than all of us, right? We are guided by superordinate goals. And share is essentially what we call in today's day and age as pay it forward, share with others. So in closing, what is the call to action, since there are so many leaders here? And we are going through one of the most painful pandemics in history. The call to action, as the World Economic Forum says, moving from the Great Recession to the Great Reset. And I say it's a 4E framework that you can try and apply in your organizations, in your daily life. Profits with purpose, as well as partnership. So the 4 E's are efficiency, doing more with less, leverage digitization, leverage technology, be perpetually innovative, have tighter fiscal discipline. Ecological consciousness, enough has been said, so I won't spend too much time, but essentially reduce, reuse, recycle, and reimagine the future. The third is engagement with the ecosystem, develop an ecosystem thinking. Pa Sukarela put it beautifully, right? Moving from the ecosystem to the ecosystem. And we are now living in an era, as we are doing right now through Zoom, we are connecting without converging in a single place. So let's use the power of this technology to develop an ecosystem mindset. We have to work with various stakeholders. It's not just about shareholders. We have to move from resiliency to self-sufficiency. And finally, the fourth is empathy, which means finance must work for the many, not just the few. And it can't work only on the growth at all costs model. So this is where I will close my presentation, something for us to reflect on. Gandhi put it quite beautifully. There is enough in this world for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed. And poverty exists not because we cannot feed the poor, but because we cannot satisfy the rich. And Jeffrey Sachs, I thought, put it beautifully. We can be the first generation to end poverty, or we can be the last one to have a viable planet. So, as Gandhi said, it's not about someone else will do something somewhere. It's not just about governments. It's not about corporations. We all have a responsibility. We must be the change that we want to see in the world. Therefore, my closing message is, do not keep calm. Go change the world. Thank you. I hope I was able to provoke you enough into reflecting, and I'm happy to address questions afterwards. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Malik, for awakening us to the key elements that should ultimately matter amidst exponential technological growth. Again, I invite our participants to take a couple of quick seconds for reflection based on Malik's presentation. Please write down your response to this question. What is the one thing I can do as a leader to make a positive difference in this increasingly digital environment? What is the one thing I can do as a leader to make a positive difference in this increasingly digital environment? Just a quick reflection for you participants. Okay, thank you. Our last panelist for the day is Dr. Hanafi Gucciano, who will focus more on leadership for a most sustainable way of life. Dr. Hanafi is a financial sector and sustainability expert, profoundly involved in sustainable finance, impact investment, digital transformation strategy, and fintech. Dr. Hanafi, please.
Well, thank you, Geraldine. It's a pleasure to be here. Where's my slide? Please. My my topic is about new normal and how we can build everything back better. So this is something that I tried to reflect when I was volunteer after tsunami in Aceh. So the key word is build back better. And with this pandemic, also I would like to use the same word, and hopefully we can build back better with different system and different approach. But first of all, I'd like to send my to greet my the participants here. This is my second opportunity to participate in this team, and unfortunately we cannot meet in direct contact. But I hope this via Zoom also effective. Please, next slide, please. So this is the topic that I like to cover, especially very simple, very light. But first of all, I would like to greet every one of you. Hello, everyone. How are you? Healthy? Happy? Well, next slide, please. Look at this sad picture of a girl who wants to reach outside world, but no phone or connection. A lot of people trapped in this situation during pandemic. They need a shoulder to lean on. They need leaders. So here we are. And as this world is not fine, but I do hope that all of you are fine. Next slide. Our planet is not far from being okay. As you know, that there is still a lot of inequality and poverty to fight. There's so much technological development and constant change, and we still got the old days problem of war. Now they call it trade war, cyber, and now COVID-19. These are the days that many of us feel like we are going through hell. All of us just wanted to go back to normal, the old normal. On the other hand, we are witnessing a rapid change in the way we work. Work from home. It's a strange concept if we said that at last Christmas. Although some digital nomads have started working while having holiday. And in the coming years, many jobs will disappear due to both adapting to new normal and digitalization. At the same time, we also know that new forms of works and organizations will develop, and that there'll be an increasing demand for people who specifically have a high level of problem solving and interpersonal skills. Next slide. So we need to ask, what kind of leaders are we? Or where we can find the leaders, the kind of leaders that we need at this time of crisis, at a drastic change, and how we're going through all of this and build a better future. A wise man said, crisis reveals character. Crisis in a time when what you do stands side by side with the importance of how you do it. So let's ask ourselves, am I staying true to my values, exercising self-judgment and humanity? Am I worthy of trust? Am I embracing that new norm of leadership, one based on character, sustainable leader character? I don't know the answer yet, but with work from home, it was clear to me that our forced compartmentalization of work and life was ending, and everyone is juggling a work-life balance. The question now is, will we rebuild these walls between our personal and professional lives, or do we need those walls at all? With this rapid adaptation, there is no more room for aggressive leadership practices of the Industrial Revolution, of Western type of cut-of-throat competition, or what mainstream business school taught you. No one ever said that leadership was easy in time of crisis, like what we are facing today in the midst of COVID-19. So, to business leaders who have our children or our future generation in your charge, be mindful. Your people that are working for and with you are trusting you. They are trusting that you are putting people over profits. And they are trusting that you are doing everything that you can to ensure their safety. They, in fact, we are trusting your judgment, so be worthy. Embracing the truth that we are all in this together, and yes, we are only as strong as our weakest link. The decisions we make each day at this time will have a lasting impact, not just to you, but to all those in your charge. People will be paying attention and counting on you to show humanity, humility, courage, accountability. They are looking for bravery, integrity, and kindness. What you do and how you get through this will be a legacy you will carry forward for the rest of your life. So we need to balance our thinking and our acting. Next slide, please. Richard Boyatzis and Annie McKee, in their book Resonant Leadership, reveal an important message for today's business executives looking to maintain their effectiveness over the long run. The authors saw how mindfulness, hope, and compassion, the elements that might seem alien to the corporate world, but can serve as the cornerstone of successful and sustainable leadership. Next slide. Mindfulness. Mindfulness here is best described as being fully aware, awake, and attentive with regard to yourself and others. By consciously paying attention to mind, body, and heart, and spirit, leaders can recognize when they are heading into crisis mode and determine how best to direct their attention. When one practicing mindfulness, it will include reflection, physical activity, and engagement with others. Next slide. Hope. Hope is an emotional magnet. It keeps people going, even in the midst of challenges. It is a source of personal renewal, in that it causes physiological changes that renews us and increase our resilience. In addition, hope is contagious and rapidly can spread through an entire group. So we need to infuse our executive with hope. Next slide. Compassion. This is the last cornerstone. As Boyatzis and McKee define compassion as empathy in action, or most specifically, compassion is understanding the feelings and experiences of others, respecting those feelings, and being willing to act on that insight. Compassion does not have to be virtuous action. For example, in the workplace, it can simply acknowledging another perspective and acting in accordance with that perspective. As such, exercising compassion can help leaders establish profound relationship with other people, decrease stress levels, and improve effectiveness. As Boyatzis and McKee stated, people who think they can be truly great leaders without personal transformation are fooling themselves. We all know that process of developing ourselves as people and as leaders is very challenging. But we can start with building our awareness, inspiring others, and forming profound relationships that sustain success. I believe we are now in the brink of compassion revolution. the desire to alleviate another's suffering. Compassionate leaders look at our people, our employees, their anxiety levels, and asking them what they need. As an employee, when you are under pressure, you have two choices. First, shoulder the burden or show yourself compassion by requesting help. Let's move to another slide. People said, but aren't we in the zero-sum game world? John McKay, a co-founder of Whole Foods, and Raj Sisodia, a professor at Harvard University, started the conscious capitalism movement. It is based on the belief that it's necessary to reinvent capitalism, but this time by shifting it away from profit and greed to a path of sustainability and value creation, where the people and the planet truly matters. Conscious capitalism ideology is based on 4 pillars. First, business should serve a purpose besides making a profit. Profit is necessary, but for business to survive and develop. But however, increasing profits shouldn't be the ultimate goal of organization. Instead, companies and employees need to work for a higher goal, from producing food to feeding people and improving their well-being, to protecting forests, making transportation more efficient, helping other businesses thrive via consultancy service and digitalizing them. Second, stakeholder orientation. Business must take a holistic view, as other speakers already mentioned. A holistic view of all the people surrounding them. Just as investors should be taken care of, so should employees, suppliers, clients, and other relevant stakeholders. So when business is being done, it's important that not only the companies benefit, but also the people around. Everyone involved can have fair share in these positive outcomes. This company might bet at a fair trade policies or certification labels like FSC for paper, UTZ for cacao and coffee, or RSPO for palm oil, meaning they are sourcing from the forest managed responsibly. The third one is conscious leadership. As we've already discussed before, conscious leadership is the conscious capitalism movement, meaning leaders in the organization must make sure everyone is aware and living in the company's higher purpose. They should create a culture of integrity and transparency and inspire others to embrace a collective spirit where everyone can bring out the best of themselves for the use of all. The last one, conscious culture. A conscious culture is one where people are transparent, integral, loyal, fair, and accountable, where everyone is taken good care of, where people live and according to the same values, principles are practices, cherish and enjoy living. In fact, a strong organizational culture is critical for success. But few government is taking the lead in this conscious capitalism. Expectations are now increasingly up to business to help improve society by, for example, developing CSR strategy, and consumers are asking themselves what these big companies are doing for the world. Apart from the product or services they sell, consumers are wondering if companies are positively contributing and creating value to the broader community they serve. They all hope business work based on triple bottom line, where people and the planet also matters, and not just profit. Perhaps corporate leaders are unaware, but people expect conscious businesses with conscious leaders to take the lead. Next slide. Next slide, please. On a professional level, periods of this can significantly impact organization and undermine performance. At an even greater scale, it can put the planet and human lives at stake. So it's only when people's ego confronts the subconsciousness fears and learn how to manage and master them so that they can start becoming truly inspiring and conscious leaders. From my personal experience, when we soothe down the voices, the ego in our head, we start understanding our true purpose and what makes us feel fulfilled. We can identify different people, explore their creativity, learn how to combine their ego with their true motivation, or even unlock other perspectives such as the gratefulness of helping others. We need to understand that we are part of a whole and a complex system connected with natural cycles, and that the planet needs protection. Next slide. Now, how we do matching holistic leadership, conscious capitalism, and sustainable planet. Here, we need to do things differently, and you can't deny it. We are on track to warm up the planet more than 2 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. We are speeding up the loss of biodiversity at an unbelievable rate. We are not really dealing with ocean acidification. We are also polluting the soil, water, air in so many different ways. All this damage has started to and will increasingly come back to us at extreme weather events, affecting businesses and supply chains for as long as we keep polluting like this, plus the time it takes for the planet to recover. Businesses have to share responsibly they have been and are still taking down forests and reducing Earth's ability to store carbon oxygen, and they have been and are still producing too much food, waste, clothes, everything, with all the consequences to bring along. On the other hand, it's the responsibility of the leaders to change this. Buying too many clothes or too many foods that are not local or seasonal is not good. There are citizens who don't demand government to act or companies to change. That's why we need to have a holistic leader now. Next slide. I think I better skip this one. Next. So, consciousness required here for sustainable world. By looking at governance, mobility, production, work life, and corporate responsibility, and numerous relevant areas, all will be subject to change and new models through digitalization and adapting to the new normal. We live in an area which knowledge is being produced and made accessible through a variety of means. Yet, rather than experiencing full control, we tend to feel lesser as the companies find this environment as a fuga, like previous speakers mentioned. This is the features of world we live in. Pundits who not so long ago claimed either the end of history or the advent of a time with no geography are now being challenged by everyday news. Every new innovation and every change to today's life will have heavy consequences on the balance in the society, economy, or environment. But transformation is also about change of culture, which require a radical rethinking of people, processes, and technologies. This often includes tectonic change to tasks and to the ways colleges interact within the whole ecosystem. I believe that a business cannot digitally transform unless or until its people transform. Well, they come with their own environmental costs, So technology and digitalization can play a crucial role in developing solutions for a better tomorrow. Technology and digital transformation break silos and create transparent and unified data for decision making. They will change how companies manage their relationship with the wider world.
Hanafi, you have about 7 minutes left.
Okay. In the end, any transformation will succeed or fail with people. No amount of technology will save an organization without the right talents. Next slide, please. So, is there a big shift in the pattern of environmental and social issues? It requires startups companies to work and apply business projects. Given the levels of social inequality, poverty, and structural unemployment in Asia, this is not an abstract concept for us. It's something right in our backyard, which we have to think seriously. This is now being asked to contribute to solving social problems. Even at some prestigious business schools, which have traditionally focused on mainstream skills, now responsible business education is taking hold. Schools need to do much more to equip students with the sustainability. Millennials are pushing on sustainability because they care. They are coming into their professional life at a moment when the needs have never been starker. Nowadays, we can see more students who want business and management skills to mobilize non-government groups and international organizations. These themes are becoming widespread in European universities. They want them to be more global, versatile, able to navigate uncertainty, and trustworthy. There are still divergent views over how best to teach responsibility business practices and the potential trade-offs caused by their inclusion. Alongside more traditional Asian hard skills and harnessing the spirits and souls. Like the balance between yin and yang, Pak Sukarela mentioned, the technology and business sides often have opposite, yet complementarity, and direction is needed. When the yin and yang are in harmony, you can reach your goals. But when they are out of sync, dozens or hundreds of problems can arise. Therefore, the world needs conscious leaders to build back the economy and business better. To conclude, next slide. We need to recognize the signs that conscious leadership is a key for the leaders of the future. While working from home, I found wisdom, humor, and some surprising insight how leaders can help their organization and move forward amid the uncertainty and loss that we are all experiencing now. Conscious leaders have also the potential of helping business unleash their collective potentials. We are talking about how we respond and act when the pace of technology around us is faster than we are experienced. Organizations have begun to realize that not only do future practices and economic models need to transform in line with the dynamic of social and climate change, but sustainable thinking makes a business more successful, and therefore sustainable business practice is becoming a key strategic priority. We all can promote and improve environmental governance and green living by, for example, applying green financial standard and system, product innovation by promoting ESG concepts, and innovation sharing to business practice. Thank you.
A big thank you to Dr. Hanafi for sharing your deeply held convictions on what it takes to live most sustainably. May I ask you participants to indulge in yet another quick reflection. Please write down your response to this question. What is the one thing I can do as a leader to encourage my staff to live and work most sustainably? What is the one thing I can do as a leader to encourage my staff to live and work most sustainably. Thank you, participants. Next on our agenda is a discussion revolving around the three presentations that we have had. To start with, may I invite Mr. Muhammad Sani Muhammad Ismail, who is an ADB Financial Sector Specialist, to offer his views for about 5 minutes. Mr. Sani?
Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you for the opportunity and for the organizers as well. I found Pak Hanafi's presentation very interesting, and I think I like the way it was presented in terms of conscious capitalism, the balance between business and profit, but most importantly, putting people first. That's a very powerful message. And I think from my perspective, I like to share two quick points on two aspects of the work that ADB has been working on, certainly in areas of interest to myself, and how we relate that with holistic leadership, looking at people, looking at the value behind those initiatives and those practices. The first is on Islamic finance, and it is an area that that we hear, that we speak of, that we read of, and a lot of people talk about the principles behind it, how Islamic finance can contribute to business, to the economy. Certainly, where I'm working in Indonesia, so there's a lot of discussion on Islamic finance, what we need to do to make progress in this area. But sometimes when we look at all these aspects, and as leaders, we need to look at it holistically. We miss some of the important underpinnings of Islamic finance. And that is the values and the principles behind Islamic finance. Why it was sort of created, why it was being advocated and preached to some extent. And if you look back into the holy books, into the Quran, into literature, you will find that there's a lot of emphasis on justice. That the reason why we have Islamic finance is about caring of people, making sure people are not manipulated, not abused, and having certainty. That is why uncertainty or vagueness is one of the areas that are not allowed or that are prohibited in Islamic finance. Which is why, if you look at, for instance, I like to share a quote from the Holy Book, from the Quran on justice. It says, "O believers, stand firm for justice as witness for God's, even if it's against yourself, your parents, or close relatives, be they rich or poor." That is a very powerful concept for us to reflect on as leaders. That when you talk of justice, it's not just about justice for yourself, but justice to others. And sometimes justice can mean that you have to go against yourself and against people who you care about, because that is a value that you should appreciate. And so when you reflect back on thinking of leaders, holistic leaders, it is important to have these elements between structure, meaning, and value. Oftentimes as leaders, we focus more on the structure, how to get the work done, how to make our business more profitable, but we missed out on the value and the meaning, how to appreciate people, how to care about people, how to empathize with the situation that they're in. And certainly that's a very important aspect when you speak of the current situation that we're in. Caring for your employees, people, starts with caring about yourself, because you need to be inward looking, but then you don't stop there. You need to expand that power, that value externally to the community, the society that you're in. The second aspect that I like to touch on is on human capital development. This is something that, again, Indonesians will be quite familiar with. It's an aspect that has been discussed in terms of the Indonesia's government's priority on human capital development. And I think this is a very interesting aspect, because what it says is that it puts people first. You empower people, you train people, you uplift them. And, eventually the economic progress and economic development will come, because people are at the center. When you train your people, when you make them better, when you prepare them to deal with the current situation, you will get the end result of economic goal and economic upliftment. So I think this is another important aspect, and ADB is actually very interested to work with the government in this area. We do have a program called Human Capital Development, and I think this is very much in line with what we've spoken in terms of holistic leadership, putting, as Pak Hanafi said, putting people first. If I may, Geraldine, can I just end my sort of intervention with two quotations that I really, really like. One is actually, it says, we have little power to choose what happens, but we have complete power over how we respond. So I think that's a very powerful message that, you know, sometimes you can't control about what's happening around us, like what we see in the pandemic, but we can certainly have power over how we respond and the actions we take and how we care about people and the environment. The second quotation is from a very famous, many of you will know, from Rumi. So Rumi says, as leaders, you know, what we say is very important. So as leaders, before you say something, let it pass through three gates. First, is it true? Second, is it necessary? And third, is it kind? So I think those are three sort of concepts that we should think of as leaders when we interact and when we communicate with others. I'll end my short intervention there, Geraldine. I think happy to pass over to my colleague, Yurendra. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sani. I personally like your emphasis on justice and human capital development, and it seems like all our presenters today have quoted from Rumi. He seems to be our iconic leader. Our next discussant, also an ADB financial sector specialist, Mr. Yurendra Basnet, will now share his perspectives for 5 minutes. Mr. Yurendra?
Yes, thank you very much, Geraldine, and a very good morning or good afternoon or a good evening wherever you are. It's a great pleasure to be sharing my short perspectives. I don't think I can do any justice to the speakers that have come before me, who have put forth eloquently, beautifully, quoting from spiritual scripts to the issues that we are facing today. So just wanted to, from my humble professional background here, wanted to share some insights and perspectives. My name is Yurendra Basnet. I'm the country economist here at the ADB office in Jakarta, a colleague of Sani, and I want to pick up where Sani left on the importance of human capital or human development. We recently had our new country strategy for Indonesia. This is ADB's country partnership strategy for Indonesia, covering from 2020 to 2024, endorsed by our board. And I'm really pleased to see a lot of relevance to what was spoken before. We placed a lot of values on issues of inclusivity and sustainability. So thinking of development in terms of how we can promote inclusivity and sustainability. And what does that mean for us? We have identified 3 strategic pathways, and here too we consciously went with the notion of pathway as opposed to objectives or pillars, because the world is, you cannot fit the world into your blueprint. You have to adapt to the world that is there given to you. So we think a pathway is giving us that sense of direction, sense of purpose. We identify 3 strategic pathways that we would want to work with the government of Indonesia, people of Indonesia. The first one being on improving people's well-being, and I want to stress that because we felt that, not least because of the COVID situation, we have to bring the notion of well-being, that holistic notion, if I can quote what Mr. Malik said, moving from the whole to the whole. The notion of well-being is very important so that people are able to lead a meaningful life, whether that is in an economic sphere or a social sphere, and people have those skills and educations to utilize them in a meaningful manner. The second pathway that we've tried to put forward is on recovery, not just a recovery. And I again echo the views that have been presented before. We should not be reverting to the normal. We should be thinking about how do we progress forward. And in that regard, we think green principles or green recovery will be central to how we think about. And again, here I'm influenced by what Mr. Malik presented in his PowerPoint. We just have this planet, so let's make it a better place, rather than looking for other places. So I think green recovery will be an important aspect. And finally, strengthening resilience or sustainability. For example, in Indonesia, given its geographical position, and many countries around Asia are facing, natural disasters to, pandemics, disease, a whole host of, threats or risks. And we need to make, how do we make sure that households, communities, and states are resilient to deal with these risks? So our third strategic pathway focuses on resilience, straddling all the way from the community level resilience, and we are working quite proactively with thinking about new innovative ways of helping communities. For example, promoting circular economy, thinking about how do we reduce pollution, preserving the oceans, so a whole host of work around that area. So just wanted to say that, fully appreciate and acknowledge that these are important agendas because we want to make sure that we continue to make the world that we live in a better place, and that these need to be thought through, not just in technical manner, but as Pa Sukarela took us literally tour de force of our history, common literature, common understanding. That needs to be the lens through which we think about going forward. How do we realize objectives or outcomes that lead to shared prosperity? So let me stop there. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share a few words. Thank you.
Many thanks, Pak Yurendra. Thank you so much for your own deeply held convictions on sustainability and economic prosperity. Participants, I am mindful of the ticking clock and so must now dive straight into the question and answer session. Kindly note that we have received an avalanche of questions. Due to time constraints, we had to select just the key, all-encompassing questions, so do bear with us. The first question: give us examples of successful holistic companies, and what were the key successful factors in adapting holistic leadership? Perhaps Pak Sukarela or Pak Malik, you may want to take this question.
Thank you, Bu Geraldine. Hello, everyone. Thanks again for comments, and also I look at so many questions and also positive feedbacks from all participants, meaning that we are not only sharing thoughts, but we are sharing the spirit and energy. I think that's the key objectives of our gathering today. This is not only just a meeting, it's a kind of, I call it a gathering of spirit, of hope, of the energy and also synergy on how we can build, how we can improve our inner quality as a leader, and how we can spread, influence others, our team, our institution, and also our community, our society, and also our planet. I think that's really wonderful. And again, thank you very much for all participants and also our great speakers. So I think to the questions, just a very short, my response is, I think there is not yet there is still emerge the role model for the holistic leader and also holistic company, or maybe a holistic governance or holistic society. But we have to be positive. We have, as a leader, especially the young leaders, I urge you to start from yourself and then build up your family, and then the team, as also Laos mentioned, start with the personal mastery and then go forward, and then just follow the path, and it will create a better future. So I think there are a lot of now research on this conscious capitalism, holistic leadership. There are a lot of now program on leadership embodiment, leadership integration, not only in a training or consulting company, but also now in leading universities like Harvard or any others. I think that's sort of the spirit is now emerged, and we as an Asian people should not forget that we inherit that kind of values in ourselves, in our tradition. Should don't forget that we have gold and diamonds in ourselves that should be shared to shine and to give light to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Sukarela. There's a question here directed at Dr. Hanafi. With such a crisis, companies will tend to focus on economic survival. Citizens will fall back into their basic priorities. Social stability may be at stake in some countries. Environmental issues will seem better for a while. So why should we care about SDGs now when all this is happening?
Thank you, Geraldine. My short answer to that is critical minds might ask why companies should bother with this situation. Just to focus on profit. But with the primary reason being to make money, they forget about the power of consumer. Consumers today have access to more information than ever. They know exactly what they want. They know how to get it. And the best product is the best price is always available at their fingertips. And the millennials have a taste. They not just want to buy something, but they also want to buy something that's good for themselves, good for the community, good for the environment. So the criteria have changed. An increasing number of customers aren't just making decisions based on product or price anymore. They are closely looking into what a brand says and what it does and what it stands for. So that's my short answer.
Another question here, Dr. Hanafi, for you. Will best practice performance today be good enough for 2030 and 2050? And if not, how must we transform our business models, our products, our supply chain, and operational performance?
Thank you. So definitely the current model is not sufficient for the 2030s and 2050s. In new normal, we are not going back to the old ways, old models. That was the industrialization concept based on colonialism or capitalism, the cutthroat competitions, and that's no longer an issue in the future. The future is whether you care about environment, whether you make money, but at the same time also sustain your livelihood, whether you get something, but also thinking about somebody else, and your employees also wondering whether you just make money or also looking after our back. So a leader has to think about the approach is completely different with industrial revolutions in 100 years ago. With new normal, definitely we have to think new and new business model, new challenges, new talents, and then we have to adapt quickly. And luckily, digitalization is here to help. But people move very slow, and legal aspect also very slow, and technology is very fast. Then how to combine these two things, slowness and fastness. And that's why holistic leader can combine these two together and at the same time give a direction to these people so they don't losing the opportunities in digitalization, but also at the same time they don't lose, they don't compromise the environmental aspect. So new leaders have to consider both changes and also at the same time green living. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanafi. The next question is directed at Mr. Malik. What new emerging leadership behaviors need to be adopted in order for companies to thrive in the digital economy? How do these behaviors mesh with those attributes that simply work, no matter the time, circumstances, or cultural considerations?
Thank you, Geraldine, and thank you for the question. So I did try to cover that very briefly in my presentation. I spoke about two things. I spoke about VUCA++, so I said leaders have to now become perpetually comfortable with uncertainty, and it's not just the unknowns, but the unknown unknowns. I mean, nobody, we talk about black swan events, nobody ever foresaw or could have predicted COVID and what it did to the world economy, to companies, to individuals. And we saw that. I don't want to again go into the economics of it in detail because there are better experts here, Pasani and Yurendra, but we saw so many companies, right? They spent the better half of, I mean, the better times in the last decade and all their capital into share buybacks or you know, thinking that things will go on this well forever. And when the pandemic hit, their balance sheets were at extreme strain, and they had to rush to raise more debt. And I spoke about an over-leveraged economy as well. What are we doing? We are just, you know, taking on, borrowing on more to keep the engines going. And does anyone think it's sustainable? So as a leader, you have to completely change your mindset from this short-term thinking and thinking things will perpetually go on this way, whether it is in terms of easy liquidity or consumer behaviors. And Hanafi spoke about that as well. I briefly touched upon it in my presentation. The millennials are angry, right? They are not, it's not just a shifting behavior, as Hanafi said. They are really angry about the old ways. You talk to your teenage children, they don't see the world the same way. They don't see the brands and companies the same way. For them, it's not just about pricing or you know, whether that company has a good brand or it's been around for 100 years or 150 years. They don't care. I wanted to quote a study which said that 2/3 of the younger customers actually incorporate in their purchase decision the fact whether this brand contributes in a good way to the world or in a harmful way to the world, whether, and you can go into details, you know, whether it is sustainability, whether it is organic, green, all of those things, whether it uses, you know, forced labor or you know, doesn't kind of conform to labor standards, etc. The millennials look at the world very differently, and very soon they are going to be the customers and the economic drivers of tomorrow. So you cannot look at things the same way. So that is one. The other is I spoke about holistic leadership, and I want to echo what Pa Sukarela said. You know, I am an idealist and a poet and a philosopher, but I'm also a realist. I worked for 2 decades in one of the largest or the largest banks in the world, so I know how things work. And my simple message is, as we always say in corporates, right? What gets measured gets tracked, and what gets tracked gets done. So I saw one of the questions in the comment box about how can we talk about all of these nice fancy things when our KPI is profit. And I agree with you, that's a real challenge. But as Pastor Karela said, things are changing. And one of the reasons why we are having workshops like these is exactly to inculcate that stakeholder mindset. It's not just about profit making. And this has to percolate across everybody, the CEO, the CFO, the analyst. It's not just about the next quarter's profit. We have to change the way we measure success of an organization, of individuals. And once we start doing that, everything will start flowing backwards. So when we talk about, just to summarize, when we talk about the leadership model of tomorrow and something that will work in all situations and contexts, one is go beyond just, being agile or thinking agile or talking about agile. Be prepared for uncertainties. And I spoke somewhere about fiscal discipline and efficiencies, etc. as well. So have that embedded into your culture. And you cannot do it unless you have a holistic perspective, right? Who will do all of these things, right? It is people, your employees, your people, human capital. I think Geraldine spoke about it. So we have to stop thinking of employees as resources, which is the old way of thinking about it, and start thinking of them as probably your most important capital. And that's how you will sustain through the ups and downs, and more importantly, through these kinds of black swans.
Malik, there's another question here directed at you. In the pits of recession, how can we survive? How can we fight the decline of economic growth and at the same time fight COVID-19?
Well, that's a question which has been, I think many brilliant minds in the world are working on. So in all humility, I think there are enough experts who are working on trying to find the right balance. But I'll just try and give you a very simple perspective. And this is very personal to me and to all of us, right? Just go back, if I may say, do a thought experiment. Just go back 6 months to when these lockdowns were just starting, right? In the first month of the lockdown or the first 15 days, and it happened pretty much across Asia at different points in time, but whenever it started, doesn't matter. Just visualize the first month of the lockdown. How did our lives and your life completely transform, right? We were all this while, for years, even decades, there was this discussion between HR departments and management whether remote work works for employees or they will become lazy and productivity will drop. What happened? We were forced, the whole world was forced to work from home, and we've adapted to it. And I gave that example, one of the examples which I thought was instructive, and which really talks about how our mindsets were a big block. Whenever you, especially in banking, when you talk about remote work, there was always this concern that employee productivity will not be the same, etc., etc. And what happened in the first 2 months of the pandemic, or 3 months? $1 trillion of bond issuances were done by portfolio managers, by investment bankers. And this is just one example, from their laptop sitting at home. Were they going and meeting clients? Were they really doing deals through Zoom? So we've adapted to a new normal in such a dramatic way. That is one. Secondly, I'm sure many of us read that, felt that. I have actually seen some pictures, and I've taken some pictures of the sky, right, outside your home before the pandemic, 15 days into the pandemic, 30 days into the pandemic. You could see the difference in the sky, right? It was bluer, cleaner. You could see much more farther. You could start seeing the mountains and the lake, which were earlier not visible. The third, so we've really seen, all this talk about environmental sustainability and healing the environment, as we call it. It happened right in front of our eyes in the first 30 or 45 days of the pandemic. Thirdly, what did we experience? Going back to the roots, simple living, right? And I read this very nice statement somewhere. What the pandemic has taught us in the early days is most of the world can survive on simplicity. It's not a question of the cost of living. The cost of living was never a problem. It was the cost of lifestyle. We always wanted more. We wanted, it was our wants rather than our needs. All of us sat at home, survived, and of course there has been an economic impact, but largely look at it. People were able to go back to basics and manage, right? With simple eating, simple living, communicating with people in a different way. So it's not that, we cannot survive in a simpler fashion. this whole perspective of economic growth, we need more, and then we talk about trickle down, bottom up, top down economics, etc. It's because we've always thought in a certain way. The moment we were forced into an unprecedented situation like the pandemic, whether it is in terms of environmental healing, personal simplicity, fulfilling our needs in simpler ways, we've actually lived through all of that. And we figured out, in many cases, I am talking about my own personal experience, household expenses fell by 30 or 40%. And did it really impact my happiness? No, I think I felt as happy or perhaps happier than I ever was. And I'm sure many of you experienced it. So a lot of it, as Pa Sukarela said, is, and that's why all of us spend so much time talking about going within, changing from within, leadership from within. You cannot, if you look at the old model, you will always think in old terms, in the old paradigm. You have to think in a different way. And in a way, one of probably unintended consequences, or if I may say, blessings of the pandemic was we were able to live a different model. We actually lived through that. And here we are, right? In October, we've survived. We've come out of, or we are coming out of it. And I think we've come out of it wiser. Thank you.
Thanks, Malik. A question here for Pak Sukarela. How do we offer this new perspective on holistic leadership in government circles?
All right, that's a beautiful question, because I spent much of my time working in a quote-unquote government, central bank, and now in Financial Services Authority. I think the values or the spirit is very nature, yeah. Either for government or for a private institution or state-owned institution, or even to the for us as a individual human being. It is actually the values, if you say like a compassion, integrity, authenticity, all of these beautiful characters are inside us as a gift from our Creator that we should, nurture and enlighten and share to others. So I think probably there is a challenge, of course, on how we can spread this, not new, but actually this is a very, very old ways or old values or natural values in our self. So I think first step is raise our self-awareness. That's a very, very important for us, because all of us as a leader, as Prophet Muhammad mentioned that all of you is a leader, and leader is accountable for what they do, what they think, and what they create. Is it a good or not good, right? So start with yourself. Second, of course, we should find or build our community, and just share this new or not new, these values or perspective and also action to the team, to your team, small team. Third, find a good community. There are many sort of learning community out there, either self-awareness practice, martial art, either spiritual circles, whatever. Just find a good community that can nurture or build our inner capacity, our inner values. The third one, of course, we should use also technology, how we can leverage technology to create a better system, to be more transparent, so more accountable. I think this is also in a way that we should integrate not only spirit, but also thinking and also action. So we should integrate not only thinking and action, because if mind lead the action, it will create many crises, many fallacies, many wrong things. But if spirit leads the mind and the mind leads the action, will we create a good things more sustainable way. So I think for us as a leader, especially in a government or public sector, it is really, really urgent. Why? Because we are policy maker. Because as I mentioned in my presentation, I quote from I Ching, if the inner side is in order, the outside, the external will be also in order. Our job as regulator or a government is to govern, to nurture, right? How we can govern our society, our institution, if we as a leader is not self-governed, right? This is impossible. So this is very, very important, not only to think systemically, system thinking, but also we should be a system being, a holistic being, by leverage, use our emotional quotient and spiritual quotient, because actually we are a spiritual human being. Here is in this world, I think all of Asian tradition, we are all believers, right? We are believe in the hereafter. This world is only temporary. It's only a kind of a test for us, a field, to test our accountability as a leader. How we do the right things or good things for ourselves and for others, or vice versa, right? So I think that's sort of my my suggestion. So, and next, I think we should collaborate, either not only intergovernment agencies, but also collaborate public and private sector, and also how we can integrate the spiritual values in our education, in our business, in all of our policy formulation, right? Because you should get rid of the old thinking, which is not true, not right. Just focus on the profit, exploit the planet for on your own benefit. This is all wrong, wrong thing. And we experience also many crises, right? So our sustainability as a people, as a society, and also as a planet, I think is really depend on us as a leader, on how we can raise our awareness and act together. That's very important, to act together and to move into sort of the right direction. And I think we are very happy. We saw that many startup company now, because I'm also working in the fintech area, a lot of small company now putting not only in their strategy these values, but they are practicing, this not only sustainability, they are practicing this holistic way in doing business. Business is important, profit important, but impact is much more important. How we can create impact, better world. If you see, many leading companies now also they put it into their value proposition, social impact, even spiritual impact. So we should be positive, looking forward that we can, create a better world for the future. Thank you.
One last question, Pak Sukarela. Perhaps you can take this and answer this briefly. How can technology be used to deliver social services and improve governance? How can regulation be appropriately balanced to encourage innovation while protecting human rights? Perhaps all three of you can take this as a recap, for your key insights. Maybe you go first, Pak Sukarela.
Thank you.
And then Malik and Hanafi.
This is a very big question, and all of us as leaders should think hard, and also, we should contemplate, reflect. That's very important, because gaining knowledge is only, leading us to the wrong ways. But, as Jen saying that, knowledge is learned learning something new every day. We learn something new every day. But much more important, how we can improve, how we can reach or embody the wisdoms. We should let go, let go the ignorance. That's, I think, that's very, very important. So technology is very, very important, but we should lead the technology. The values, it's much more important. It's also mentioned by the author of Industry 4.0, Klaus Schwab. We have to enhance the values. What is the values? The good characteristic in order to lead the technology for a better. Because technology, I think, is neutral, right? The innovation can, like a sword, right? It has two sides, right? You can do for good, or you can do for the wrong thing. So it's very important for us as regulator, especially in OJK. We take that to innovate is one of our mandate. Not only maintaining stability, resiliency in the financial sector, fostering growth, care for the customer protection is very important, but innovation now is a new mandate for regulators and also for the government. So we should learn much about this technology and how we can leverage technology for the, better public policy, for better, infrastructure, how we can manage good data to better decision making, and also how we can create a more transparent, real-time system, something like that. So I think it is very important to understand the technology. And second, we as a regulator also need to more engage with the customer, with the industry, with the association. So we learn from, we should be open mind, right? Regulator is not just only do this and do's and don'ts, but we should learn and also unlearn what is not good or what is wrong policy. We should get rid of, learn from our mistakes, right? So I think that's very important for us as a policy maker. So within this development of technology, we are very confident that we can do many things for enhance the transparency, the trust, and also resiliency in our financial system, right? So I think that's the key message. That's why in OJK we have a dedicated team to manage this, to foster, to do research on this innovation and how we can transform our financial system, not only in terms of infrastructure or strategy, but in terms of values, right? That's why we, one of a proponent or pioneer, if I may say, pioneer in the world, the central bank or even Financial Services Authority now talking about leadership, talking about the holistic leadership, talking about spirit. It's no longer same, because you couldn't find.
I think we lost Pak Sukarela there. Maybe Malik, your parting shot, please.
Sure. If you will permit, Geraldine, I just want to share one slide. I did not include it in my deck, but I think it captures the answer to the question in a very crisp way.
Sure.
Can my slide be seen?
Yes.
So I think this is a question which many are asking, right? Many of the brightest minds in the world are asking, how can technology solve for the myriad of problems that we have self-created over the last decades and perhaps a couple of centuries. And in my book, I had tried to address this, but I call it moving from evolution to revolution, the human revolution. And it has to be built on 3 pillars, which kind of mirrors what Pa Sukarela also said before this. It is a revolution of technology, but technology for good. Revolution of our social systems, and I call it democracy 3.0. The ecosystem has to work for the many, not the few. But most importantly, and this is probably the crux of our 3 hours that we spent today, revolution in human consciousness. And it means collective consciousness, but also means individual consciousness, because change, as I quoted Gandhi, starts with each one of us and our self-awareness. And these have to meet in a common place. I know it's much, much easier said than done, but that's really the way we can, take our society to the next level. And the question also included human rights. Once we start thinking about all, the many, not the few, we start thinking about, and I quoted in my presentation as well, that inequality is not just an economic question, it's a question of human rights. So we have to think about inequality, we have to think about exclusion, we have to think about all the things which are mentioned in the SDG goals as not just some checklist items to be ticked, or it's a big ambitious goal. It's a fundamental human right? Access to clean water, access to nutrition, access to a good environment, access to a future for our children, access to fair education, access to fair financial access, economic access. It's a fundamental human right. And technology can solve for it, but only to a certain extent, right? I spoke about using technology for exponential productivity. Yes, it can grow productivity much faster than ever before, and that's why we talk about Industry 4.0 as being different from the first 3 industrial revolutions. But technology, and Pa Sukarela said it quite well, right? It's a fact. Technology is neutral. It's neither moral nor immoral. It is what we call as amoral. And technology can only be a tool for us if our consciousness, moves beyond evolution to revolution to the next level. Otherwise, we'll only be using technology for bad, and we've seen it throughout human history, right? I don't want to go into detail because we don't have time, but just take a simple example of nuclear energy. When Einstein came up with that equation of E equals mc square, it was supposed to be one of the greatest breakthroughs in human history and science, and people said it will solve for our energy problems forever. And what did we end up doing? We detonated a nuclear bomb. We created a weapon of mass destruction. So the only reason why I'm saying is, you look at history, technology can be a force for good. It can also be a force for more destruction. And the choice is really in our hands. Unless we get our consciousness up, I want to leave us with a slight warning, if I may. The technology will probably be a harming force than an enabling force. Thank you.
Thank you, Malik. We have a comment here from one of our participants. He says, we need to evaluate the purpose and rationale of Islamic finance and see if current practices are fulfilling them, not just from a contractual perspective, but from the impact on people, especially during the pandemic. Finally, perhaps Dr. Hanafi, you have a parting shot you'd like to weigh in on that question?
Thank you, Geraldine. I agree with Pak Sukarela and what Malik just said, but that we need to use technology sensibly. Just think about blockchain. With its incredible potential to add trust and traceability across food supply chains, helping manufacturers, fishermen, farmers, consumers, and regulators alike. Also think about artificial intelligence that can empower people with disabilities, translating eye movements into program comments, or reduce bias in the hiring process. And smart city work in conjunction with everything from sensors to open data collection, and smart street lights to provide better services to people and protect resources and environment. I think that's my additional comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanafi. There are lots and lots of questions here. I'm so sorry, participants, we can't take all your questions. But I'm trying to summarize a heap of questions here on leadership. And perhaps this will be the very last one. It's directed at Malik. Can you just tell us one key factor that will make us good leaders? least one key factor that will make us a better or more effective leader. Your viewpoint, Malik.
Thank you, Geraldine. And I think I tried to bring in quite a few elements of what constitutes holistic leadership or more conscious or aware leadership. So apart from that, I'll just leave you with one thing, and this is something I have personally practiced. So it's not theory, it's been a part of my own journey and transformation. It kind of echoes with what Pasukarala presented in one of his slides, right? He spoke about the difference between the philosopher and the alchemist. The philosopher is always looking out, the alchemist is looking inward. And that really, it's not theory, it's not just a feel-good statement. It changes the complete fundamental way in which you look at the world. And that has to be the anchor point of a new paradigm of leadership. And to just add to it, I have practiced it. I spent 2 decades in corporate life, as I said, in banking. And when I moved out in 2016, I made a pledge that every day I will unlearn to relearn. And I have been doing that consciously every single day. Over 20 years, over 2 decades, whether you are in government, whether you are a leader in corporations, even in digital banking, you think you're thinking out of the box, but your mind gets tuned to thinking in a certain way. The system boxes you in. The system makes you think this is the only right way, right? So as much as I say today that we have to think beyond profits, and Pasukarala said, and Pa Hanafi and Pa Yurendra, and Pa Sani spoke about it, most leaders will ask, but how to do it? I have to worry about the next quarter's profit. The problem is we are not unlearning. We are still in the box. And that's why, I read a very good quote. It's attributed to Einstein. I don't know whether Einstein really said it or not, but let me quote it. It says, stupidity or foolishness is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. That's exactly the problem in our corporate thinking. That's exactly the problem with Wall Street, the analysts. Everybody talks about SDG. You now have ESG scores. But what do the analysts look for? The next quarter's profit. So the poor CEO is stuck trying to manage, expectations. And part of the blame goes to the shareholders themselves. They are also individuals and consumers. So that consciousness and mindset has to change. And one of the things we can do in a very simple and practical manner, as I've been doing for the last 4 years, is every day try to unlearn your past and try to relearn. And trust me, it works like magic. Thank you.
Thank you, Malik. So the magic word, unlearn and be more self-aware. Am I right, Malik?
Yes, and I would say unlearn to relearn. Empty the glass, as Rumi used to say. You have to empty your glass before the new things can come in.
Thank you, Malik. Folks, that's all the time we have, I'm afraid. Many thanks for participating. Thanks heaps for your questions. You should soon receive the workshop evaluation form. We look forward to your candid views so we can offer you more enhanced workshops in the future. Kindly note that there is a little catch. You must complete the evaluation in order to receive the e-certificate of participation. The link for the presentation materials will also be sent to you. In fact, it is on the chat box. And finally, on behalf of the organizing committee, we extend a heartfelt appreciation to all presenters for generously sharing with us their nuggets of wisdom. A big thank you also to the staff of OJK and ADBI for the logistical support. Thank you, everyone. Wishing you calmness and greater clarity as you build yourselves to become more effective leaders. Till we meet again, goodbye.